we just had a huge 340 player online tournament hosted by Victory Road. This tournament had some massive names in the VGC scene, including guys like Gabe Agadi, Fede Kempo, Marco Silva, Joe Ugarte, Wolf Glick, and many more. Now, the cool thing about this tournament is that it was our last major online tournament before heading into our first regional for Regulation H, being the Baltimore Regional Championships next weekend. Now, there is a lot to go over today, and there are a lot of new meta trends, so without further ado, let's jump into it. So the first thing here, obviously, is shout out to Taro, a Japanese player here that did go on to win with Japanese Rain. If you guys have watched any of my meta breakdowns recently, I'm sure you've probably noticed the Japanese players in a lot of these online tournaments are absolutely loving Rain at the minute. And the cool thing right now is that this team also had my guy Salamence on. You know, I was playing Salamence Rain literally when the format dropped, or like a month before the format dropped, I should say. So it's really, really cool to see people still playing it on that team. And, you know, obviously having success in what is, you know, a pretty large tournament is really, really cool. We will go through all the teams shortly. Obviously, if you guys are interested, Wolf Glick, you know, Wolfie VGC, the guy, the GOAT. He was in this tournament. He was playing Sun. We will look at his team shortly too, because this team here is very reminiscent of kind of like the Miraidon teams we saw in the previous format where, you know, you had Miraidon with Whimsicott, Blood Moon, Ursaluna, and Draft. So that is really, really cool. But I'm going to look at the usage stats here because there is a lot to take away from this, and this is probably some of the most important stuff really for the, you know, for the event to look at. I will scroll down a little bit more because it looks like you guys are just, yeah, there it is. So that's basically the top 30. It's all we can really see here. But the really cool thing here is, one, we can see usage stats, and two, we can see conversion stats. Now, unfortunately, I can't filter this, right? Really, really sad. I wish I could filter it, but you guys get it. Left column here is day 1 usage, right column here is day 2. So, to no one's surprise, Rillaboom is number 1. I do think Rillaboom is arguably the best Pokemon in the game right now. It's just super splashable. You know, it's not as powerful as things like Goldango, but its ability to just be fake out, you know, on any team. It's an Amoonguss immunity. It does ridiculous damage. It has priority. It's just a really, really good one, right? And it can also reset terrain as well, with Side Spam being pretty good. So, no surprise there that Rillaboom is still the number 1 in the game. But if we look at day 2, you know, usage stats here, we do actually see that Goldango does actually spike up to be the number 1 most used one in this event. Which again, I'm not surprised by. I do think Goldango right now is the best offensive piece in the game. And you see it in the stats, right? This guy, you know, he was 34% usage on day 1, and his conversion rate was really good. He went from 34 day 1 to 40% day 2. So the conversion rate there is really good. Where Rillaboom was kind of the opposite, right? It was 39 day 1, and then day 2 dropped down to 31. We also see King Gambit here as well. This is the mon that continues to rise up. And its conversion rate shows it again, right? 28% day 1, 35 day 2. So normally when it goes up, I think it just shows like the mon is really good, right? Because one, it was incredibly highly used mon. It was the 3rd most picked Pokemon in the event. And it converted really, really well to day 2. Incin, the Fallen King. Incin definitely continues to drop off as the meta develops. It's definitely something I've been talking about a bit recently. But, you know, Incin, 28% usage, definitely a lot lower than I think a lot of people probably expect. But its conversion rate also kind of dipped a little bit. 25% in day 2 is still really, really good. But obviously, you know, Incin it's definitely falling off. I think a lot of people are starting to realize that there are, you know, a lot of mons that are really good into it. King Gambit, obviously being the number 3 most used mon in the game, means that, hey, there's a Defiant mon literally on 35% of teams on day 2. So, you know, 1 out of every 3 teams at least has, you know, a King Gambit, which is kind of crazy. We see Archaludon here being pretty consistent. Obviously on Rain, it's really good. We are starting to see it played a little bit as well without Pelipper. We are seeing it on some teams with things like Power Herb plus 30, so that you don't need the Rain to get the +1. Amoonguss, though, in my opinion, is probably the biggest winner of this tournament because it feels like this happens every freaking meta, right? New format drops, Amoonguss drops down, you know, it's pretty low usage. It slowly works its way back up. We see it here, you know, it did get up to the 6 month used mon. It's on 22.8% of teams here on day 1. But day 2 usage stats, it jumps all the way up to 38%. It had, without a doubt, the biggest conversion rate at this event. To be played like 77 times out of like 340 players, and then of like 50 day 2 players, 18 of them to make it, is kind of insane, right? It's the 2nd most used mon in day 2 of the tournament, which is kind of crazy, right? And Amoonguss, it's just showing, man, that no matter how much you think this guy falls off, he's still the GOAT, right? But look, we can go through all the stats here. Obviously, you know, Primarina and Pelipper right now, the 2 premier water types. If you want Rain, go Pelly. If you want something for a more balanced team, Primarina right now is one of the GOATs. We see Volcarona as well, keeping its, you know, spot in the top 10 here, obviously. Volk Balance right now, paired up with King Gambit, is one of the best cores in the, you know, in the metagame right now. Blood Moon Ursaluna obviously continuing to be one of the premier, you know, special attackers in the format. We also see Basket Legion here. Conversion rate was a little better than it's day 1. Obviously a very good Pokemon, plays incredibly well with Rain, but I do think it is also a very good Choice Scarf Pokemon, currently on a lot of these teams that are kind of, you know, more balance focused, right? You don't need Rain for this thing to be good. You know, Choice Scarf plus adaptability is just incredibly powerful. My GOAT Dragapult seeing, you know, 12, you know, being 12th in usage to me is kind of crazy. I love this mon. I'm glad it's getting play. Indeedee as well, Size Spam is still really good. Talonflame is the premier Tailwind setter as of right now. Its conversion rate also pretty good as well, going up in day 2. D-Knight right now, definitely one of the more underrated mons in my opinion. Crazy to say it's underrated when it's the 15th most used mon in the game. But I think both its Choice Bandit set and its Assault Vest sets are both incredibly good. T-Tower is another one I actually I expect to continue to see rise up. Its conversion rate was quite bad, you know, having 38 in day 1 and only 4 in day 2, I did think was very, very interesting. But especially, you know, if these Sun teams, right, with these, you know, Whimsicott plus Typhlosions do continue to pick up, I do think we will see, you know, Tyranitar continue to rise as, honestly, that's a pretty good matchup into a lot of these teams, right? You know, obviously, you know, you have the ability to, you know, swap the weather on Pelipper's, which is definitely really good. And you're just really good into the Sun teams in general, right? A lot of the time, you know, and I think we'll even see it today, some of the Sun teams did start opting to run Lilligant as well. So they're going like Whimsicott plus Lilligant on those teams. So definitely something to keep an eye on. Regular Ursaluna as well, picking up in usage, very powerful mon. Big Clef as well, it continues to rise up, has a very, very good spot on those, you know, Kingambit teams. Same with the Aquabreed Taurus as well, right? Pairs incredibly well with Clefairy on the Kingambit teams. Mouseape, struggling. Mouseape is definitely struggling right now. You see here, day 2, only 2 mouses. And like out of 48 teams, only 2 mouse holds. And we also see only 3 Annihilate. So definitely one of the combos that is very over-prepped in the current metagame, and its conversion rate was definitely really, really bad. Obviously, I think the rise of things like Clefable is, it's pretty rough for Mouseape, obviously. Electabuzz continuing to rise up as well, a mon I've showcased in the past. Is also pretty good into it as well, because, you know, you can just sit there and you can, you know, just redirect the mouse, and they kind of force to taunt you, but then it means your partner gets, you know, a turn to attack the mouse, and can definitely be really, really annoying. Glamora conversion rate as well, definitely one of the other major winners of this event. We see quite a lot of them, and all this, like, there's 3 different sets that are basically picking up as well, which is really cool. We're seeing Focus Sash be really good, we're seeing Meteor Beam as well being really good with the Power Herb stuff. I think we also saw like a couple of Assault Vests as well. Unfortunately, the breakdown here for like items isn't as good as like, what's it called? Why am I blanking on it? What's the website? Top Cut Explorer. I like using Top Cut Explorer. But yeah, so unfortunately the stats aren't as good. You know, if it was a regional, we would have a way better breakdown of this, but yeah, definitely something to keep in mind. Glamora's conversion rate was kind of insane in this event. Also, like, one of my goats, Joyugade, ran it as well, so that kind of helps. We see Whimsy, though, still, you know, being pretty solid. Sneasler as well, actually, is a mon that kind of snuck up a little bit. Sneasler paired up with Rillaboom has been something that was quite good in this event. So definitely something we'll touch on later. Giraffe, only 3 in day 2, and I'm pretty sure one of them was Wolf, which is kind of crazy. Dozo's like hardly any usage, which is kind of crazy, but at the same time, I think people just don't like playing against Dozo, and if you're a good team, you got matchups into it. And then, of course, Murkrow and Torkoal around his side here. So a lot of cool things going on here. The metagame just feels super diverse right now, which is really cool. And seeing my goat Electabuzz here at 22nd does feel really cool, because, again, this is a mod I started building with, you know, like, I put out a guide, like, building a team with this, like, a month ago. So to see it rise up and, you know, getting usage is still pretty damn cool. Now, I feel like I just spent way too long rambling about all those guys there. I guess if you're interested in the bracket, this is it. This is the top, I believe, 16 players. I don't know why Homeboy's here. I'm guessing the 16th player dropped or something like that would be my guess. But yeah, if you're interested, you can go there. I'll also leave a link to Victory Road down below. They definitely host the biggest online tournaments in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. The only issue is they don't host them as often as things like Limitless do. So if you're someone who wants to play like every weekend, obviously check out Limitless. But if you want the bigger events, check out Victory Road. I also didn't mention there was money involved as well. I think it was like a 2 or a 3K prize pool. You can like add it up here. It's probably like 3K, maybe 2.5K. I don't know. Does it say it anywhere? I feel like it should say somewhere how much money was involved, but yeah, anyway, is what it is. Let's check out some of the top teams here before we wrap up for today. So first team here, as you can see, obviously Japanese Rain. It's pretty standard for what we've seen a lot recently. This is just the standard Pelipper set, standard Basculin Legion set, standard Archaludon set with Snarl, which I don't want to say Snarl is standard, because normally you'll see things like Flash Cannon in that slot. But Snarl is definitely really good and does have a lot of really good matchups. Terra Dark Glass, Kingambit is also really consistent. Amoonguss is just, again, that's like the standard Amoonguss set. You got Clear Smog there as well to help out with your Dondozo matchup. But the really interesting part to me was the Salamence. Now, the only, like, I don't want to say issue I have with the Salamence set, but the only thing that really jumped out to me was the Air Slash over Hurricane. I think everything else on this set is really good. I think Steel is definitely probably the best Terra for it. I love Life Orb on it. Obviously, Intimidate's the way to go, especially on a, a set like this. Having Protect and Tailwind is really nice because it gives you a mode that does not rely on Pelipper to give you speed control. But yeah, going Air Slash to me was crazy because it makes me wonder, like, is Salamence staying at home when Pelipper comes? Or is it, like, more often than not, Salamence stays at home? Because, yeah, I mean, like, don't get me wrong, Air Slash is great, gives you a flinch chance, which is really, really nice, but Hurricane's like confusion chance is so game winning sometimes. And personally, when I played it, I would just lead like Pelipper Salamence and you just like double Hurricane turn 1. And like sometimes you just confuse both mons. And if you don't, maybe you double up a slot. You're more likely to get a confusion if they can survive 2 Hurricanes. But yeah, so that's a really, really cool team there. The Japanese Rain honestly just continues to develop and it's really sick. So as much as the metagame's developed and as much as we've seen, you know, Rain drop off, like if you continue to look down here, like where's our next Pelipper? Like there's one other Pelipper in top 16, I think, right? I'm not blind, am I? Yeah, there's only like 2 Pelippers in top 16, which is crazy because this was a mon that was dominating early formats, like, sorry, earlier in the format. Like, you would check out the, like, you check the stats and it'd be like, oh, you know, top 8 had 6 Pelippers. There was 3 in the top 4. Now we have 2 in the top 16, so obviously people are getting better into it. But it's showing it's still good. It's still really good, and, you know, the team can continue to adapt, which is really good with the Salamence stuff here as well. We do see the Dozo team here getting 2nd place. Now, this is a team that has become pretty standard. This 6 here, I should at least say the 5. The Glamora isn't 100% standard, but I do think the Glamora is still obviously really good with these teams. But you have the Choice Specs Golden Go, you have the Terra Normal Banded, D-Knight paired up with the Talonflame. This basically gives you just 2 of the best breakers in the game, plus speed control. It's incredibly good. If you're going up against more stall-orientated teams, you have Glamora. Glamora also is just a really good special attacker as well. This is a mon that where you can just lead it with the Talonflame and really just start dealing a lot of damage. I do really like the Assault Vest on this set as well. I think AV is like really, really cool on this mon. Obviously, they have the, you know, the Sash and the Tatsugiri, so that, you know, we can't go Sash Glamora, which is probably the most popular set right now. Definitely surprised to not see them go for the Power Herb Meteor Beam stuff on this team. But again, obviously, the issue with that is it can miss. And maybe they just wanted the consistency coming out of Assault Vest. And, you know, maybe there's a certain matchup I don't know that it patches it for. But yeah, really, really cool stuff here. Very, very standard Dozo, very standard Tatsugiri. But yeah, it's really cool to see that like Dozo is still doing good because like every time I make a video about this, or every time I do a tier list, or every time I talk about the best cores in the games, I get so many comments. People say to me, Dozo's bad, Dozo's bad. It's so easy to counter Dozo, blah, blah, blah. I agree, right? It's easy to counter Don Dozo. But tell me why in this 340 player event with some of the best players in the world, it got 2nd place. If it's bad, tell me. I'm just curious. Yeah, I'm curious why people think it's so bad. Don't get me wrong, you can counter this mon. You can run Haze. Guess what? People think it's bad, so they stop running Haze. Like, look at these top teams, right? Like, there's Clear Smog on the Amoonguss here, right? Is this Amoonguss Clear Smog? I'm guessing it has to be, right? No Clear Smog on this Amoonguss. Like, what does this team here do in front of a Terra Grass Dondozo? I mean, it just doesn't beat it, right? It doesn't beat it. Like, what about this? I'm guessing Haze Primarina? Yeah, Haze Primarina. Okay, there's your matchup there. You also have Unaware Clef. So this team here has 2 really good answers into it, right? The other guy, he just didn't. Fede Campo just didn't have a matchup. I'm actually curious. Did Fede play him? Who did Agadi beat in the finals here? Yeah, he beat Fede Campo. That's what I'm saying. Dude, he runs into Fede. Fede doesn't have a matchup. And Dozo just wins. Man, it's good. It's good. Dozo's good. Anyway, I apologize. I'm not trying to roast Fede here. The guy's goated. I'm sure he has like a matchup. It's just not a free one. But regardless, this is another team that we have, you know, started seeing pick up, at least the core. I mentioned it in my top cores video the other day as well. I do think this is probably the best way to play Incineroar right now. But this is basically just a really good hard Trick Room team, right? You say, hey, I've got P2. P2 is my, you know, it's my Trick Room setter. You pair it up with Amoonguss and you have Pollen Puff plus Recover, which is also insanely good right now. Amoonguss as well is just like, if you get like a Trick Room up, Amoonguss can just like sleep him on and then you pivot out your other mon, Amoonguss sleeps the other guy, and then next thing you know, you've got your Ursaluna on the board for free next to an Amoonguss. It's kind of insane. Same with Incin. Like, you just have this core of like 4 that is just insanely hard to deal with because you just use Fake Out, use Spore, use Trick Room to keep the Ursaluna safe. You get it into the right position, and then eventually Ursaluna comes in and starts doing Ursaluna things. It just starts one-tapping everything with Facade, and it's really good. We've also seen variants like this in the past as well, where you have Goldango, where it's like, hey, my opponent has answers into the Blood Moon Ursaluna, right? You know, maybe they've got their, you know, their, what's it called, their Rillaboom, right? Maybe they've got some other answers that can really, you know, mess with the Ursaluna. And then you say, hey, I'm going to do the exact same thing, except now I'm playing Nasty Plot Goldango. I'm just going to Nasty Plot up, I'm going to get up the Trick Room, I got my Fake Out, you know, I got my Spore, and my Goldie's just going to win the game. And then, of course, T-Tar here as well. My guess is T-Tar is here to fix, or not fix, but help out with the Psy Spam stuff, because Goldango is like, the thing with Goldango is really good into Psy Spam if they can't use their Torkoal. And then, like, the issue there, obviously, if they have their Torkoal, shit becomes really crazy. And T-Tar is also really good into Psy Spam if you can deal with the Gallades, right? So you can go for some stuff where you say, hey, I'm leaving T-Tar at home, I'm leading Goldango. Goldango is the, you know, I'm going to make sure Goldango pops off here. And then eventually you're going to remove the Gallade, the Torkoal is going to come in, and the second the Torkoal comes in, T-Tar comes in, eats the Eruption, gets rid of the Sun, and it's just a bad time, yeah. So it's a really cool team, and we do see it pop up quite a bit. We see Marco Silva here. I'm assuming they built together. We also have other variants as well of it as we go down the list. Stefano's team here, though, this is like kind of that new meta, balanced team, right? This is the stuff that's really been picking up quite a lot recently, where you got the Volcarona, Primarina, Rillaboom as your like Firewater Grass stuff. Basically, you got Volcarona with Quiver Dance, one of the best setup moves in the game. You got Rillaboom being arguably the best support Pokemon in the game right now. Primarina is just a really consistent water type. It is also arguably the best fairy type in a metagame where there's not that many fairies. It also has Haze as well, so Rillaboom plus Primarina makes the matchup into Dondozo pretty free, because you can get into a position where, you protect, pivot in Rillaboom. Rillaboom can basically, any hit coming off on Dondozo, right? Earthquake and Wave Crash aren't killing you, and Order Up is not doing enough damage, and then you just pin it with Fake Out into Haze, and then you just kind of beat it from there, right? Very, very good. Then again, you have like two of the, premier, pieces in the metagame right now. You got SD, King Gambit. Basically, like, Gambit and Volcarona both do, like, very similar things where they set up next to Rillaboom and Clef, and then they kind of sweep the game. You get to +2, +4, +6 on the King Gambit. Paradox Sucker Punches are one-tapping everything, and then you try to get into, like, the mind games and stuff, and you just say, like, I'm just going to Cactus Cleave. Also, another big reason as well why Clef, I think, is rising up so much is King Gambit, because a lot of the time they run sets like this, where they don't have a Steel-type coverage move. We've even seen some people, like, drop Protect for low kick and just not run Iron Head. And Clef with Unaware just hard walls it. So that's another thing as well. Clef hard walls King Gambit in the mirror, so keep that in mind. But then, yeah, big Clef here as well. We see the goggles, you got the Terra Steel to keep it alive. And then you're a Follow Me bot. You got Helping Hand as well to, really help out the pieces once they start, popping off. And again, we're in a metagame where fairy types are really, really sparse. There is not that many, so having something like a Stab Moonblast off a Clef is pretty damn nice. And then finally, to round this team out as well, we have Big Sneasler. Now, I really like this. So the one thing I will say about this set is it's really interesting that they didn't opt for Throat Chop. So the thing with Sneasler right now is it has one of the best close combats in the game. Really, really good. Diaclaw is one of the most broken moves in the game. Obviously, Covert Cloak is like everywhere, but Diaclaw is just inherently broken. Like a 50% chance to like sleep, poison, or what is it? Sleep, poison, or paralyze, I think. It's kind of insane. And then, yeah, the Mon just really lacks a way to hit Goldango, right? You can't hit it with Close Combat, you can't hit it with Diaclaw. Hence why a lot of the time you see that Fake Out slot be Throat Chop. But obviously on this team, they're not that scared of Goldango, right? They have the, the King Gambit, they have the Volcarona, and they have Terrify Rillaboom. So I'm kind of guessing that's why. But yeah, it's really cool here to see Sneasler do so well. I think this Mon has a lot of potential as a fighting type. And also using it just kind of as a secondary Fake Out Mon next to Rillaboom, I do think has, quite a lot of potential. What team do we have next here? So we already covered Marco's team when we looked at Fede's. Tiago's team here as well is kind of interesting. So this is like our first mouse hold we see for the event. And this is like an offensive mouse hold as well, which I do think is really good. I think this set here is really nice because like one, Population Bomb with Wide Lens does a ridiculous amount of damage. Feint is really good as well when you're trying to like pin stuff in the late game where they're like, hey, maybe you've set up your Volcarona, and they're going to try like protect in front of Volk. You can just go like Feint into like attack and it breaks protect and, obviously does a lot of damage. Of course, as well, the other cool thing with mouse hold is like, you can have this follow me stuff where you're like, hey, I can support the Archaludon, I can support the Volcarona, I can support the King Gambit, but I can also deal a lot of damage, right? Which is really, really nice. The Arch set here as well, this is like the first one we haven't seen on Rain, and as you can see here, no Electro Shot, which is kind of crazy, but I do think this set here is really cool. Basically, double stab, body press, and snarl is really, really nice. We see an incredibly offensive Volcarona as well, which is really surprising because a lot of the time Volks are like lefties or they're Cloak, right? Because they're like, hey, I either want to pair with Rillaboom and I want to set up and be really, really healthy, or you go like Cloak so you can't be faked out, you can't be snarled down, right? This set says like, nah, stuff that I'm going to click Quiver Dance once and I'm going to deal stupid amounts of damage, which is really cool. You got Gastro here with Terra Fairy. This has an incredibly good matchup into Dondozo, because you come in, you can't be Wave Crashed, you fit Terra Fairy, so you can't be Order Up. So the only option they have to go for is like things like Earthquake, which can be, like really detrimental, right? Especially too if you're next to something, like for example, Glamora, because then all of a sudden you Earthquake, the Glamora's got Focus Sash, and you get up your Toxic Debris. Now, obviously, it depends on the stage of the game. If it's end game, you probably don't care too much if you're the Glamora player, or the Dondozo player, I should say. But obviously, yeah, there are situations where you can just go for like the Spiky Shield into like Clear Smog, and then all of a sudden, Dozer's having a bad time. Yawn also is very, very good. And Gastro just in general has a really good matchup into Rain as well, right? It's pretty good into Archaludon. It's also pretty good into Pelipper. Like, you can be Hurricaned, which is like a little annoying, but it's like, it's not the end of the world, right? But again, we see Gambit on this team as well. Gambit plus Volcarona. It's like, it's the combo, man. It's the double setup that just sweeps through you. And also more, Focus Sash Glamora. Really, really good piece here. Let me close out some of these teams here. What else? So this is like another variant. This is kind of like the more popular variant, the variant I kind of expected to see a little bit more, like minus maybe the Goldie set here. But again, you got the Ruler Gambit, sorry, the Volcarona King Gambit. Just this set here actually did drop the, I think this is what I was talking about. It dropped the Swords Dance for the low kick, so it still doesn't have a way to hit the clefs. You've got the Rillaboom here as well, which again just pairs incredibly well with these two. Same with the clef. One thing I will say about the clef here as well, has skill swap. Now skill swap has like a lot of really cool uses on a team like this, because like one, so you're going up against Psy Spam and your board state is like clef plus Rilla. You can skill swap your Rilla to like reset the terrain. You can skill swap your Volcarona, which is really cool because one, you can give Volk unaware, which means like Dondozo, for example, all of a sudden doesn't ignore your Quiver Net setup anymore. Oh, sorry, you ignore the Dondozo setup is what I'm trying to say. And then on top of that, you also get yourself Flame Body, which means you can then redirect like Terra Grass, redirect the Dondozo's Wave Crash or something, and then you just burn it, which is like really, really cool. And again, you can do some really cool stuff with skill swap as well, right? Like one, resetting terrain, two, giving it to like your Volcarona. You can also like steal abilities off other mons as well. Pretty damn cool. And then also the Aqua Breed Taurus. Now, this is the set that everyone's kind of playing right now. This is the way you beat King Gambit, because basically what you do is you lead it into King Gambit. Because of Defiant, you drop it to -1, then you give it the +2, so it goes to +1, and then you steal the +2. So now all of a sudden I'm a +2 Aqua Breed Tauros. For the most part, all King Gambits are going like Terra Dark right now. I know this one's Terra Fire, but for the most part, they're all Terra Dark, right? And the reason they go for like Terra Dark is because with Terra Dark, because it's so bulky on the physical end, it can live a close combat. But all of a sudden now you have a +2 Aqua Breed Tauros in front of you that is going to one-tap you with close combat, which is really, really cool. And then the final piece here as well is like Goldango Choice Specs. This is the pretty standard way right now to like run the Choice Spec set. Power Gem just gives you really good matchups into things like, what's it called? Talonflame, right? Which is really good. And some of the other flying types as well. You see things like, you know, T-Tars a lot of the time are going for like Terra Flying. So just gives you some really nice matchups into a lot of the mons that are pretty good right now. What is next? So we actually have a little bit of, you know, Psy Spam Sunroom here. Very, very similar to the Bravado stuff I've showcased in the past. Only issue here is this team did lose style points for not having the Choice Spec Zoroark, but is what it is. Not everyone can be cool. But yeah, we see Torkoal here. This is a really good Torkoal set because basically under Trick Room, you can just clear Smog off the Dondozo, which is really, really good. You can also go for, you know, it's probably a bit crazy, but like a Terra King Gambit, you can clear Smog. I'm probably not going to be that great. But Eruption and Weather Ball obviously give you a lot of damage. And, you know, Charcoal is really nice because it doesn't lock you into a, you know, into moves, which I do personally really enjoy. Pretty standard Hisui and Lilligant stuff here. You know, double stab, Sleep Fighter plus after you, just very, very good. And yeah, this is all standard here. Standard hat, standard, oh, actually, is it standard in DD? Terra Blast in DD? That's kind of wild, actually. I wonder why they want the steel coverage. Surely there's something they're trying to hit with, like, Terra Steel, Terra Blast. I might be wrong, but that's kind of crazy. Ursaluna here with sub. I'm a huge fan of sub Ursaluna. I think it's really good on Trick Room right now. And then finally, Armarouge. Now, my only question would be if this is, like, max Armarouge. I want to say it probably is. Like, this is probably just, like, timid max Armarouge to give you, like, a second fast piece where you can say, like, hey, you know, I'm going fast mode where I'm going, like, Torkoal, Lilligant, and DD plus Armarouge. I'm guessing that's kind of what it's there for. It can also function, obviously, in Trick Room against, you know, more hyper-offensive teams as well. But, yeah, this is just a cool take on the team. Obviously, you know, a bit more of a speedy mode, I would assume, at least on the other Torkoal stuff here. Is there anything else? So, this is another team, actually, I want to talk about simply because I almost have this exact team in my builder. I'm not ready to leak it yet because it's probably going to be my GC team. But I am looking at something that is like Whimsicott, Dragapult, Blood Moon, Ursaluna, and Giraffe. I think those four together are really good. And they've also just kind of slapped on Gussie plus Incin. Now, I will say, this is something I've spoken about in the past as well. I do think Incineroar with Assault Vest is super underrated right now. I actually think this might be the best way to run this Pokemon right now. Terra Grass feels really good on it, and Assault Vest also feels really freaking good on it. Like, I genuinely think a slightly more offensive Incineroar, where you're going for things like maybe like Adamant 76. Actually, it might even be, because I think it's Adamant 36, right? So it might be like Adamant 116 or something like that. But going to the second bump number with like Adamant Nature and Assault Vest might actually be the play. I think it's kind of really good right now. But this set's, it's just good, yeah. It's my guy, Whimsicott the GOAT, one of the best tailwind setters in the game. Encore obviously is really good. It punishes things like Protect in front of this team. And when you got mons like Blood Moon, Ursaluna, and Dragapult doing ridiculous amounts of damage, the ability to punish them with things like Encore is incredibly good. Of course, as well, we're seeing the, you know, the choice banded Terra Ghost, Dragapult with Terra Blast here. Very, very good one. Giraffe as well. Now, one, I'm a huge fan of Giraffe because Normally I run Helping Hand. This set doesn't have Helping Hand. I just realized that this is a very offensive draft by the looks of it. But this is also a really cool set. This is Expanding Force, Hyper Voice, Trick Room, and Prison, which is really good into Psi Spam, I guess. That's probably this team's Psi Spam matchup, which is really, really good. And then, yeah, you just pair it up with some, like, really good special attackers like Blood Moon or Saluna. Gonna have a good time. And, of course, Insyn plus Amoonguss. I mean, it's pretty standard. Everyone kind of knows what it does. Are there any other cool teams here as well? Like, this team here is actually kind of crazy. I feel like I just skipped a lot, right? Where was I? I looked at that team. How did I skip so much? This team here is also, like, kind of crazy, right? We see some more Rillaboom plus Sneasler as well. This time it has coaching, which I do like. I think you can, go for coaching onto things like Rillaboom, which is sick. You also have your Cerulege here with Grassy Terrain, Grassy Seed, which is also super interesting. Now, this isn't Clear Amulet. This is like Bulk Up, no Clear Amulet, which I did think was interesting, but I guess it's a call that they're not going to, like, run into Insyn as well, which is kind of interesting. But, like, Bulk Up, Bitterblade, and Poltergeist is really, really good. Pretty standard Primarina set here as well. This is the standard King Gambit, except he's going for Dreadplate over Black Glasses. The GOAT Electabuzz is doing really, really good. I'm so happy to see this mon thriving. Like, having Vital Spirit plus Follow Me into Amoonguss is really good. It is, like, one of the best secondary speed control Pokemon in the game with Electro Web. And it's also just, like, a really bulky mon thanks to a Violite that has Taunt, which, you love to see. But yeah, that's also a really cool team. It's awesome to see my GOAT Electabuzz. They're doing so well. This team here is relatively standard, except it has the Specs Hydreigon. One thing I will kind of throw out there is we saw a massive drop-off in Specs Hydreigon. Oh, sorry, just Hydreigon in general. This one at the start of the format was really good. Now it's, like, nowhere to be seen. That's kind of, like, the only thing I really wanted to touch on this team. Outside of, like, maybe AV King Gambit, that has gone for Assurance over Kowtow Cleave. But I can see why. It's a slow mon that does a lot of damage with Assurance, so yeah, definitely really good. We also have Justin Karras as well, rocking more Buzz plus Sneasler. Dude, this is also, like, a really cool team as well. This one's opted for Fake Out as well, which is really nice. Oh, he's gone Poison Touch. Oh, I didn't even notice that on some of those other teams. This is, like, Poison Touch plus, like, 3 contact moves. That's actually really, really cool. Terra Dragon Pult. Now, this is my GOAT. I do love my Terra Dragon Pult. Again, really cool Electabuzz set. I do really enjoy this on teams like this where, you've got, like, obviously 2 really fast pieces, and then you have, like, 3 relatively middling pieces, but with enough speed investment, you can have your Rillaboom outspeed, like, most of the big threats in the game. Like, basically anything, like, slower than probably Whimsicott, you can, like calc this thing pretty easy to live it. Same with, like, Primarina. You're probably not going anything too crazy, but, like, you can definitely outspeed, like, go for, like, base 100s that are, like, modest to Adamant, which is also really cool as well. But yeah, it's a really sick team there by Justin Karras. I really like that team. We've basically covered this team before. This team here as well by Sam is, like, really nice. Basically, this is just, like, the kind of, like, almost standard set here, except, like, sorry, Gambit Volk set, except they've gone for Smeagol over the Clef, which I do think's good. I actually think Smeagol doesn't get enough play right now. But this here to me was the really cool one. It's the Mimikyu. So for anyone, I guess, who, like, doesn't understand, like, Curse here, that's your Dondozo answer, right? So basically you position this thing into Dondozo, and then you just curse it, because, like, thanks to Disguise, you can just, like, take a hit, and you curse it, and it's like the Ghost type curse, where, like, you curse them and they lose, like, 25% of their health or whatever, every turn, and then you just, like, protect, you pivot in your Rillaboom to fake it out, and then, like, all of a sudden their game's just over. So that's also, like, a really, really cool tech on this team. Is there anything else worth talking about here? This is, like, the standard Dondozo team. I won't talk too much on this, but this is basically what everyone's kind of been running with Pawmont as, like, the last slot here. This is, like, what you see on ladder all the time. Sounds like super standard, I think. We see some more Japanese rain here. This is actually a really cool one, because this is the, oh no, it's not what I thought it was going to be. Okay, that's kind of crazy. Okay, Homeboy's also giving out, like, IVs as well, which is kind of funny. But yeah, this team was, like, relatively standard for rain. It's got, like, 4 of the common pieces paired up with, Dozo. Now, I will say, I actually expected this to be Life Orb Surf stuff, because that's what we used to see with Pelipper, like the special stuff, but, I mean, it's basically just Rain plus Dozo, which, pretty good, I guess. This team here, definitely one of the more interesting ones we've seen here by Alex VGC. Just a lot of really cool pieces, right? You got the Drifblim here, with, Unburden plus Psychic Seed, paired up with Indeedee, so, basically, you have, like, a Tailwind setter that pairs well with the male Indeedee here. You got Haze as well for your Dozo matchup. You also have Sunny Day as well to buff up, for example, your Paldean Taurus, while also having a really good matchup into opposing Rain. And then Acrobatics as well is just, it's a good stab, right? Thanks to, eating your Psychic Seed there. Amoonguss, obviously, really good. Gives you, another answer into Dozo here with Clear Smog. This Weavile is, like, really interesting, but this is kind of just, like, poor man's, what's his name? Chen Pao, I guess. But it is still really good. Obviously, it's one of the, probably is the fastest fake out mon in the game, or it's right there as one of them. A very quick taunt mon as well. It's also a dark type as well, so it can't be, you know, Prankster Tornado itself. Triple Axle right now feels insanely good into the current metagame, and a stab knockoff off like Weavile stats is never a bad thing. Choice specs Mail DD here as well. Mail DD is a mob we've seen, you know, continuing to rise up, so definitely very good. It's a bit more offensive than its female counterpart. And Terra fighting Terra Blast as well gives you, you know, good matchups into, you know, opposing dark types and steel types and whatnot. So not surprised there. This is the standard Glamora set here with the Power Herb stuff. And then we see Blazebreed Tauros here. Now, I will say the thing with Blazebreed Tauros is like, it feels like it's a little outshined by Aquabreed, but it also has more competition in the sense like Hisuian Arcanine, you know, you've also got, what's his name, Incineroar, right? They're all like fire types. But Blazebreed Tauros with Mirror Herb definitely has a really cool niche where, again, it outspeeds things like King Gambit, also resisted stabs, and can just threaten massive damage with things like Close Combat and Flare Bits as well. So that's a really, really cool team there. Joanna's team here as well, that's also like really cool, another Blazebreed Tauros. But the final team we'll look at here before we round things out, wait, did I talk about my goat, Joe Ugarte? I think I did, yeah. I don't think I mentioned it was his team, but yeah, he's like the only guy rocking the King Gambit. But the final team we'll look at here, dude, there's so many good players, like Chris Hahn as well, Darts VGC is like very, very good. We got Jisok Lee as well, the first ever regional champion for Scarlet and Violet, man. So many like big names in this tournament, it's actually kind of crazy, dude. Man, like, yeah, even like Luca, I'm pretty sure this is the guy who won Worlds, right? I could be crazy, it might be a different Luca, but I'm sure that's the 2024 World Champion. But anyway, the final team we'll look at today, to cap us off here, obviously, it's WolfGlick, the GOAT. Everyone knows this guy, he's the biggest name in VGC. But he was running a Sunny Day Typhlosion team. Now, I do think this team's really good and has some really interesting pieces on it, right? So, one, you've got the Whimsicott here, you got Tailwind, Beat Up, Moonblast, and Sunny Day. Obviously, one of the premier Tailwind setters in the game. One of the best Prankster, you know, weather setters in the game. Moonblast is just really good. And the Beat Up on this team pairs incredibly well with the Annihilate. Now, I will say, Wolf's Annihilate, I do think is really good. I am a huge fan of the Assault Vest Annihilate. I have been thinking for a while that people just tunnel vision this mon with mouse way too hard. People, like, all they want to do is, like, play mouse hold, you know, beat up Rage Fist. This mon can do a lot more than just beat up Rage Fist. And I think this is a really cool set by Wolf because, one, you've got the Drain Punch, you know, and the Rage Fist if you do want to kind of play that mode. But you've also got Final Gambit because, again, this mon's incredibly bulky, especially with, like, max HP. And you've also got Close Combat for a ridiculous amount of damage because I think a lot of the time people forget, like, Close Combat's, like, power is, like Drain Punch is 75. Close Combat is 120. It's, like, 45 more points. It's, like, quite a lot more damage. Which is like really cool. Of course, as well, you got the Typhlosion here. This just pairs really well with Whimsicott. If you do not have something faster than this Typhlosion, it is just going to click Terrifier, Choice Specs, Eruption in the Sun, and you're not going to have a good time. You're just not going to have a good time. Blood Moon, also Luna, also really good on this team. Turbo Bear pairs really well with Whimsicott. It also pairs incredibly well with Giraffe, which I did really like by Wolf's team here, because the Giraffe on Wolf's team, you know, as per for like Wolf, pretty standard, I think, for him at this point, where he doesn't like the Helping Hand Giraffe as much. He loves his Throat Spray Giraffe. We see him play it all the time. And I think it's because it's just a really good offensive piece. Like, a lot of the time, people think, like, oh, he's just gonna, like, Helping Hand the Blood Moon Ursa Luna to, like, click Hyper Voice. But, like, why Helping Hand the Blood Moon Ursa Luna to click Hyper Voice when you could just click a +1 Hyper Voice yourself, and now you have 2 of them? Which, yeah, is definitely really good. His Dragon here as well, the Terra Dragon, he did mention, I think, on stream, which, by the way, as well, Wolf did play this whole stream out. I also believe that the team is on his Patreon as well, so you can check him out there. But yeah, no, he mentioned the Terra Dragon's just really good into, like, the mirror as well, right? Because you just got, like, Terra Dragon into things like, you know, Torkoal, into Hisuian, Typhlosion. Basically just gives you, like, a good resist, basically, into, you know, other spread moves, is kind of the way he put it, which is really cool. And then finally, Baby Clef as well. You know, I think one of the few Baby Clefs we actually saw at the event. But it has a really good niche. Obviously, it has Frank Guard, it has Redirection, it has Helping Hand, and it has After You. After You is incredibly good into opposing Trick Room teams as well, because realistically, unless, you know, your Trick Room mon is like Torkoal or Hat, Clef is going to underspeed you, which is really, really good for things like Hisuian Typhlosion in Trick Room, right? Like, maybe you're in a position didn't necessarily want to be in, all of a sudden you just go like After You Eruption and it doesn't matter anymore. But yeah, really cool team here by Wolf. Kind of sad to not see him go further. Unfortunately, I didn't get to catch the end of the run, simply because of time zones. Like, I think he was streaming at 11 PM every night for me, so I got to, like, watch the first game or two of each stream, and then basically that was kind of it. But yeah, definitely go check out his VOD if you guys are interested in it. But yeah, a really, really cool event here as well, and I've almost been rambling for like 40 minutes at this point. I'm sure by the time I've got the outro done, I'll be pretty damn close. But yeah, anyway, guys, massive event, obviously. Really cool to see Rain and Japan doing really, really good. And as I said, it's the last major event before Baltimore, which is going to be really cool. I think I've got it open here. Yeah, so we've got the Baltimore Regionals on the 14th, so that's like, what? For me, 5 days from now. Yeah, probably 6 days if you're in America. But yeah, it's really good. Finally, the 2025 season's kicking off because I think we've got like Dortmund pretty shortly after. Yeah, Dortmund's like 2 weeks later. This one here as well is 2 weeks later. And of course, we get screwed over in Australia, but that is what it is. But yeah, anyway, a lot of fun stuff coming up, guys. But yeah, I guess let me know down below what you guys think of this tournament. And yeah, let me know if there's anything else you guys want me to cover. Obviously, I have been pretty AFK the last 2 weeks. I do apologize if you guys have been, in the Discord or, checking out with the community post. Your boy's pretty sick. And even recording this video, my throat's pretty sore. Unfortunately, talking for more than 30 minutes at a time is not very easy for me right now. And normally after this, I do have to take a day or two off just to recover the throat. Yeah, I guess let me know what you guys want to see. I had a bunch of stuff planned like 2 weeks ago. Fortunately, I couldn't get it done. And it feels a little outdated now, so I kind of need to restructure what I'm doing. But hopefully, in the coming week or two, I can get back to 100% and get back to the daily uploads. But yeah, anyway, for now, guys, that's it for this one. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.